when we started Spiritless Films, our premise was we don't do entertainment for entertainment's sake. We want to show you in a visually impressive way something that will touch you, so you leave the cinema somewhat better than when you arrived. So there's always got to be a takeaway. There's always got to be something like a quote that's in your head and you're thinking about it. As much as I love action films or romances, that's not our remit, because there are plenty of film companies out there who can do that way better than we can. But what we can do is, like I said, highlight those personal stories that will touch and just give you a more a higher value of life. Hi, Petra.
Hi, Adrian.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. It's so great to meet you on Zoom.
Thank you, likewise.
Adrian, but great to talk to you. And you are a producer, and are you the founder of Spirit Film?
Spiritless Films, yes.
So tell me about your company and what led you to start this company.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so I started off as a freelance videographer and photographer, probably about 20 years ago now. And I ran a successful company, which is still running, called Blend Video and Photography. And we did weddings, corporate events, any other type of filmmaking, which at the time when we started was quite new, at least to the digital format. Since then, there's been a flood of videographers and photographers who've entered that digital space, and it's become very flooded. So I've always had an interest in film. I made my first short film when I was 17, 18.
Really?
With a few friends from school. So I'd always had an interest in filmmaking.
But I have to say, I just want to say that a lot of filmmakers say that they start like that, that it's just took the camera and started experimenting a little bit with film when they were still in school. But at that time, it wasn't digital.
No, it was it was big bulky VCRs that you would hold on your shoulder.
Yeah.
But this was more like scripted work. We'd worked on scripts. I still have those films, and I still stand by them. Obviously, the quality is not what we'd expect now, but it really gave me the feel for it. So it wasn't a very difficult transition for me to go on for just freelance videography and being a DP to making my own film company. So I'd already made a few films while I was at Blend. Then I decided I wanted to start making films to start a production company myself. So I got together with a friend of mine, and we made a collaboration. We wrote a film together called Sonder, which is it's a fictional piece about a Holocaust survivor and his son. And for the lead part, we managed to attach somebody called Keir Dallaire, which a lot of people won't have heard of his name, but they've know certain films that he's been in. Notably, there was a film that came out in 1968 called 2001: A Space Odyssey. So that was a groundbreaking film, and the lead actor in that film was Keir Dallaire. He was the astronaut called Dr. David Bowman, who ends up going very far away into space. So he was cast as the lead actor. He played the Holocaust survivor, and that film won, so far has won 4 awards. So we were very, very happy with that. Since then, that was before I set up Spiritless Films. It just gave me the impetus to create my own company instead of doing collaborations, which I was doing up until that point. So we set up Spiritless because we wanted to primarily tell true stories, because I feel that truth is stranger than fiction. And there are so many astounding true stories that have got they're so inspirational, and there's no shortage. Certainly in my community, in my where I come from, there are untold stories. So I just thought it would be better to set up my own company to do that. And since then, we made another short film. Again, it was about a Holocaust survivor, but this was actually based on a true story. And from there, we started doing a lot of freelance work. People would come to us and ask to produce their short films, and we provide the crew, etc., and bring their vision to life. So that's what we've been doing so far. And since then, we spent a long time developing a series on men's mental health, which is a bit of a departure for me, because it's not really wasn't really what I had envisioned doing. But there's a strange story behind that as well, because a fellow filmmaker, his mother had a lot of mental health problems, and she had a lot of episodes, and my friend would have to go across town to rescue her because she'd lost her car, or she'd be running in the street. I mean, she was not very good taking medication, and she lives by herself. So he would do this so often, and he very often told me, he said, Adrian, I could write a film of what I've been going through with my mother, with all her episodes. So that's what we did. We started developing this series, and now we've got the pitch deck ready to go, and now we're looking into ways of getting it in front of the appropriate commissioning editors. So,
and that's amazing if you think you can take something that's really part of many people's lives, like, something like that, like a mother with mental illness, and just highlight the story and make people aware of because it's not always the person with the mental illness, it's also affecting everybody in the family, everybody, like you say, that he has to look after, and of course it has to play also on his mental health.
Absolutely. One of the things we're covering in this series, because it's not a series that's just depicts what the situation is now. That's almost too easy. Because we're focusing on men's mental health, that was the progression. We wanted it to be like a general series, but then we honed in on just men, because that's really a subject that is neglected.
Absolutely, yeah.
Men don't like to talk about mental health, and when it comes to things like suicides, the figure is 70% of all suicides are men. So you talk about 3/4. That's overwhelming. But we didn't want to just depict the situation, because that would just leave people with a bit of a hole. And how do we get out of this hole? How do we empower men to talk about their situation? So we took a different route. The series we developed is more what we call a campaign series. So it's a series where we promote positive exercises, positive things within the mental health community, where we can show people how to get better. And it has, I obviously can't name the celebrity we've got attached, but he's pretty notable. He's had his own tragic story. So this would be very appropriate for him to put something in motion where we would see a way of remedy, as opposed to just highlighting the current situation. This would be very much a positive way of addressing what is unfortunately not spoken enough in today's society.
And how wonderful, again, that a form of art can be used to do that. You know, that it's always for me so amazing when I hear what people do with their art, and how the art form actually then gets used to, highlight things or help people, or, so many possibilities.
Right. So again, it's all ready to go. We're just going through the motions of how to get it. What the best way is to show this work, because it's been 2 years, over 2 years now, 2.5 years in development. It's gone through many stages. We've interviewed many people within the men's mental health community, and it's been a real eye opener for me, because I didn't know how many resources there are out there to help men in the workplace if they suffer depression and anxiety. So many different resources, but they're just not given the publicity. This is to me, this is the biggest tragedy, because they need to be promoted in a much better way, because they're sort of almost like working under the radar. Okay, so one of the main objectives here was to be to promote them, to the credits, to list them as viable resources, and people could go and if you know somebody, I mean, everyone knows somebody who's got some type of mental health condition, or who knows somebody who might have contemplated committing suicide, or I should say taking their own life.
Yeah.
And there's a crazy statistic. I'm not exactly sure. I don't necessarily want to be quoted on this, but it's something like, for every person who takes his life, there's something like 450 people who are affected. So we're talking just immediate family, friends, co-workers, etc. Has a very astounding knock-on effect. So yes, that's something which needs to be addressed and needs to be brought to the forefront. In a way that's not just going to become like another depressing series. It's got to be active and inspirational.
And how do you go about filming it? Do you use the film to sort of highlight things, and not that you, I mean, it's because this is you're talking to people and you have to get people's reactions, and how do you go about making it that it shows the sensitive subject?
Right. Okay. That's probably one of the most difficult things, because there's no way to shine a positive light on the rate of suicide, let's say just in the UK. So I can't really give away what's in our pitch deck, but again, it's because it's presenter led, and the presenter himself is somebody who's been through a very tragic episode in his life, and he's managed to pick himself up. He will be going through certain positive ways of prevention rather than cure. Now, I can tell you first off, I've mentioned there are many resources out there. One, off the top of my head, there's a resource where it would be as simple. I mean, this sounds just too simple to be true. It's a group of men who have got together through their own common let's say, who are either dealing with tragedy or any other type of depression, or could be PTSD or another type of mental health condition. And they've got together in groups and they literally just go on walks together. They go on, they just walk. And because walking is extremely therapeutic, when you do it with a group of like-minded people, you tend to share, you tend to open up. There's no judgment. You're not in necessarily in a group situation where you're in like you're talking like in a circle and everyone's explaining what they're going through. It's very informal, and their success rate is incredible. They've had people who've just turned their lives around by literally just something as simple as walking and talking, because very often we don't do that because our lives as desktop workers, let's say, it's very sedentary. We're not challenging ourselves by getting out in the open air and facing what we're going through. We're not sharing. As men, I think we've lost our identity. Now, again, I've got to be very careful here because and I know I'm treading on eggshells. I don't want to open up a Pandora's box of something where it's going to be inescapable. What I mean is that over the last decade or 2 decades, we've had a lot of female empowerment, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm very proud. I'm very pro women. I'm very pro the gender gap where women get equal pay. I actually personally think a lot of women need to be paid more than men, but let's not go into that now. But with that, unfortunately, I think the collateral damage that has occurred is that men have lost a bit of their identity, because traditionally, again, I'm saying traditionally, the man was supposed to be the breadwinner. It was like that for decades. Because that's gone through a shift, a man doesn't really know where he's placed in society. So he might feel at a loss to be able to explain what his function is. Where does my role lie? So it's difficult for men to sort of adjust to that and know I can't have a goal unless I know what my goal is. I can't move forward. And because of this loss of track, a lot of men feel that their lives are lacking because they're not fulfilling a role. They feel out of sorts. And this has a knock-on effect. This leads to a lot of feelings of inadequacy, depression. Whereas women, on the other hand, are just getting on with their lives. Over the decades, they've become more empowered, and like I said, rightly so, and they're just getting on with it. They've come into this new, relatively new era of female power, and they're forging ahead, which is great. But men need to sort of almost catch up and gain or regain that identity, whether it's new or whatever. So that's another thing we're addressing, to give men a stronger sense of identity.
I think also the media had a lot to do with it, because I remember my son, when he was only, I think, 16 years old, there was an ad on the television, and it was sort of ridiculing men. I think it was over Christmas time. It was about gift giving and so on. And he was saying, this is not right. If it was the other way around, if it was aimed at women, there would have been an uproar, yet it went through because it's women doing, it was like, it shouldn't have been like that. And that suddenly made me think, yes, isn't it true that how many times you get television shows where panel discussions where women just absolutely speak their minds about men, and you think, no, that shouldn't be like that. If it was the other way around, then there would have been an uproar. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's at some point I think it should be mutual respect.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, female empowerment is here and is here to stay. So we're just a little bit behind now. I think the last few decades we've just slipped behind. We need to catch up. We need to respect roles, and I think once that's done, I mean, obviously it's not going to happen overnight, but once we get on that track, I think we're going to see a lot less of the knock-on effect, namely the sort of depression and the thoughts of suicide, etc. It just needs clearer defined roles. Okay, easy for me to say, but it's
no, but it's true. I read recently, and that's also the problem, is that men are protectors and women are nurturers, and we are taking the roles. Women's roles are taken away and men's roles are taken away because we think we want to be somebody else, and I wholeheartedly believe in that. That should be that way. That men are the protectors and women, we are the nurturers. It's just in us.
Yeah. A woman has a unique ability to be able to initiate something, and the man will come along and complete it. So you can't have one without the other. Now, of course, these are not 100% cross the board defined roles. There is definitely a crossover, but I think essentially what you're saying is right. It's almost prehistoric that you have the hunter as the male and the woman, like I said, as the one who nurtures the etc. So anyway, that's what we're going through this 5-part series, and I'm hoping it's going to be commissioned very soon.
Amazing. But
the market is very, very difficult at the moment. Very difficult when it comes to factual content. So yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, but I love the fact that you tell, that you have this cause, that you want to highlight something, but also that you do real life stories, because you mentioned before there's so many stories to tell. I just think if I can just think of all the people I talk to, and sometimes I go away from an interview and I think, wow, amazing how things just fell into place for this person, or something that they went through and then suddenly, something happened to them. And you think, for me, it's so interesting hearing the stories. I can just imagine if that was in a film, how wonderful it could be. And I think real life stories are, as you say, inspirational. You really can relate and you can find something that motivates you.
Right. So this is really the premise of Spirit-Lift Films, is to show that things are not random. So there is a bigger and higher design in life. Well, I'll give you a brief example. I made a film called Epiphany, which is a short story. Again, it's one of those films depicting a Holocaust survivor, and how his life was changed by the fact that he thought he had a son who had died in the Holocaust. He actually was with his son, and his son was dragged away by the Nazis in front of his eyes, and the survivor escaped to London, and he had assumed that his son had died. But ultimately, at the end of the film, his son was alive and had come to London and had lived independently of his father, and they met together in a certain. I don't want to spoil I'll probably spoil the film anyway. But they met at a certain place, and they discovered they were father and son, and the fact that, I mean, we changed the location. It wasn't supposed to be in London. It was supposed to be somewhere else. But the fact that that story actually happened, and there are stories like that where you couldn't make it up. That's what we want to depict, that life is not a series of random events where we like just being propelled from one situation to another. There is a divine plan behind life, without getting into too many theological aspects. So our films are basically about that, apart from the mental health series, but that's really what we want to portray in our work. And we're working on one story now, and I don't know if this is going to typecast me, but again, it's another story about the Holocaust. But it's again, those stories that you find in within the Second World War are mind-boggling. How people can, although there was a huge toll, there was something like 18 million people. Sorry, 18 million people who died within the death camps. But there were some stories of how people were rescued, people that are just, I mean, you literally could not make these things up. There has to be, there's no other explanation other than providence, let's say. So our stories are basically providential about how, I think that's it. Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful to tell those stories because, you know, of course, we have to know about the terrible conditions and all the human life that was lost. But these people, I love these. Well, I don't say it in a way but I'm always fascinated by the Holocaust, the stories where it's like that, you know, where the timing, it was just timing, or it was just one little thing that happened that saved that person's life. And you're right, you know, that it just it really gives hope. You know, we think of the Holocaust, but really, if you hear these stories, they are all stories of hope and what people can endure, and what, you know, the spirit of humanity, you know, how these people survived.
Yes, absolutely. And we always say, when we started Spirit Films, our premise was we don't do entertainment for entertainment's sake. We want to show you in a visually impressive way something that will touch you, so you leave the cinema somewhat better than when you arrived. So there's always got to be a takeaway. There's always got to be something like a quote that's in your head and you're thinking about it.
My name is Morris Schreiber.
My dad had a watch just like yours.
Hi, Sassy.
What would you have done?
You can't force the issue.
Nobody should go through what I went through. Nobody.
Well, I've just come from the synagogue.
And what's your name?
You know, as much as I love action films or romances, that's not our remit, because there are plenty of film companies out there who can do that way better than we can. But what we can do is, like I said, highlight those personal stories that will touch and just give you a more a higher value of life, and life life is not. It's like we say, you don't live to eat, you eat to live. So the physical aspect of this world is only meant to nourish and supply, to give to your spiritual life. Life is not about the physical. We're not here to just eat and die, as much as people love to say that, you know, eat, drink and be merry. There has to be a higher purpose in life.
Well, I went to the Holocaust Museum in London, And the one thing, it's strange, there were many things that really touched me when I was there, but the one thing that I can never get out of my memory is the fact that when you leave the museum, then there are these interviews with the survivors, and the one person, and they all have, they ask them what is there that you now in life that you well, I can't remember what the question was, but what I can remember is the one man that said, the only thing he said was, "I never want to be cold ever in my life again." And I thought to myself, that's the only, that there wasn't a list, there wasn't the things, I hate this person, I hate that. All he said was, "I never want to be cold ever in my life again." And that really struck me, that was the one thing that he takes with, that he doesn't want to have again.
Right.
You understand what I mean? It's like,
I do understand.
Yeah,
I mean, there are, for every survivor who can open up and even come up with a simple statement like that, there's another one who will be completely cut off. They won't ever talk about their experiences. I mean, I have a friend of mine who, I've known this guy for maybe best part of 30 years. And only relatively recently, I think maybe 2 years ago, he told me his father was a Holocaust survivor. And I said, "Why did you choose to tell me that now? I've known you for decades." And he said to me, quite simply, because my father never talks about it. He can't, his experiences were so painful and so profound. And there's just no form of therapy that would be able to get you through something like that. It's beyond the worst PTSD. I mean, again, without going into anything graphic, this is not the forum for this, but there are so many of those survivors within not just the Jewish community, within many, many communities that suffered at the hands in the death camps. And I have another friend who, because the war finished like 70 years ago, he is interviewing a lot of these survivors and preserving their stories, because he knows that every year that goes by, there's another wave of survivors who pass away. So he's developed an incredible archive of like first-hand stories of those who are brave enough to open up. And again, some of those witness accounts are incredible. I would say there's a very good documentary, if you've got the time for it, and you need the time for it, because it's 8 hours long. I kid you not. It's called The Shoah, SHOAH. It's first-hand accounts of survivors, but not just that. People, again, I don't want to ruin it for you, but it's a very, very difficult watch. It's not easy to watch it, but if you want to see something that's going to really be an eye-opener for what happened in the death camps, not just for Jews, for homosexuals, for people of ethnicity, also suffered. And that must be highlighted as well, because 18 million people in what was it, 6 years? It's
unbelievable. Yeah,
it's beyond belief. I mean, think about that figure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
but when you do these films, when you these true life stories, how much do you get the person telling the story involved in the film?
Absolutely.
Oh, you do.
Full on. I mean, I if I hear a story, I won't take a story at face value. I'll go back to the source. I'll interview if they're still alive. I'll interview the person and get their version of the events, and I will try to preserve the truth. Sometimes things are dramatized. Sometimes we add a little bit of something to make it a little bit more eye-catching, a little more dramatic. But essentially, we try and preserve the truth. We don't want to. I mean, we'll change a location. So we will say either based on a true story or based on true life events. So it gives us a little bit of wiggle room to make things a little bit more dramatic. But normally, there's no cause for that because it's sort of the stories almost tell themselves.
So are you still?
Yeah.
Are you still? So you still do the filming as well, or are you just directing?
My main skill set is producing, although I think for the last two films that I did, I directed as well. I am a cameraman, but I don't touch a camera during filming. So we have a very good crew that we use who are incredible. They're people who have had industry experience, and they get us a film of very high cinematic quality that is able to be shown at in the cinema. So we had Sonder was is the first film that I made that was fictional. That was premiered at the Prince Charles Cinema. So it's still called the Prince Charles Cinema, although now obviously it's King Charles. So that was very special because to see something that you spent probably a year and a half, 2 years from conception to final edit, to see it on a huge screen was really was mind blowing, and it was very, very special, and something I'll hopefully remember for the rest of my life.
I'm sorry you have to be here. What can I do? I just want you to understand.
But that's something that when we watch a film, we don't always realize is the time frame. You know, these films, how much time and the amount of people that's involved in a film like that. So it's huge teams that work on films like that.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a short film. Okay, I would say we had probably about 50 people work on it from beginning to end, and a lot of the crew were doubling up different roles because we were constricted by budget. But it took, actually, truth be told, it took about 3 years because we were just about ready we'd agreed for Keir Dallaire to play the lead. We met with him in Brighton. And that was in January 2020. And I said to my co-filmmaker, okay, let's bring him in. Let's start filming in March of 2020. Okay, not knowing what was around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, yeah, let's book in the tickets. Let's get him in. Let's just, we've got the agreement. Let's book the flights now. And he was my anchor. He said to me, no, not yet, wait. And of course he was right in hindsight. And we had to see out at least a year with the pandemic. So that really affected our the film. And there was times when we thought it was never going to be made, and then we had an iconic actor to play the lead. It wasn't going to happen. So yeah, we had our own anxieties during the development of that film, but thank God we made it. It's won awards, and Keir Dullea himself won the Best Actor at one of the film festivals, which is great. I mean, anything he does, somebody's gonna give him some type of award for that. Especially he doesn't really do a lot of films anymore. I mean, he's made films with Laurence Olivier, De Niro, Angelina Jolie. He's been in a lot of films that you wouldn't know, but his main thing is theatre work. He's very much a theatrical, but yeah, and he's getting on now. So we were especially thrilled to have him on board, and yeah, it was a pleasure working with him. Really, I could speak for a long time just talking about him and his lovely wife Maya, and how they came as a package deal. And they're so non-Hollywood.
Really?
They're real people, and they took to the concept straight away. I mean, we got an agreement from them from when we met them. From the first time, they agreed there and there on the spot, we want to be involved. So that really was special for us to get them involved, and we're still in contact with them, which is amazing. Yeah, this is like 2 years on.
But
So.
You talked about the pandemic now that sort of halted. But can you see a benefit for the film? You know, can you see that time frame where you had to wait, that changed something that you would have done otherwise?
It's amazing you said that, actually, because that year that we waited, because we were ready to shoot. We had a couple of month window, and then we would have just shot there and then had a week and done. But that year we had a lot of development and redevelopment of the script, and it did take on a different aspect, because it was, without giving away too much about the film, it had an ending that was depressing.
Okay.
And although I didn't have full control over the script, the script was written by my co-filmmaker Joseph Morel. We did develop the idea together. We went through a lot of that. We thrashed through a lot of the ideas. He actually developed the script in the screenplay form, but the concept and a lot of the aspects within Judaism were developed by myself. I sort of worked on him during that year to give it not such a depressing ending. I said, look, at least give people a sense of hope, which it did. But we compromised from being something like a positive ending, and what he wanted was a depressing ending. We ended up making an ambiguous ending that you could read into it what you felt. So that definitely happened because of that year in development. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. We did, but you have to look at the positive side, like we've been talking about. There was a very positive aspect that we achieved through that year of development.
Many artists talk about that, that they say that many positive things came for them. I think it was also that time where everything stood still and we had to think about things in a different way. We sort of saw life also in a different way. So, yeah, that's wonderful to hear that changed then for the positive.
Absolutely. I mean, we all had, listen, being at home for however many months in the beginning taught us to reframe, taught us to think out of the box, and this was not a conscious choice. We were thrust into it through circumstances, providential or otherwise, however you want to think about it. But yes, it taught us to really think out of the box. And a lot of people took on different roles through the pandemic. And although obviously I can't talk about the how many millions of people died, but the one positive thing you can take away from that is that a lot of people did reframe their lives, and a lot of them were for the better, myself included.
But Adrian, you teach as well.
Yes. So I mean, I try and fit in a lot of things. I mean, I teach Judaism. I also learn Judaism. I have online classes. I'm a musician. I'm in a band. I've been a musician for maybe 40 years. So we're 2 songs away from completing our first album, and then once that's done, then we're going to be touring. We've through connections, we've got one sort of headline act that said they want us to be their support. So that's something else that I'm doing as well. But yeah, I do fill up my time.
What is the band called?
It's called Blade of Thorns.
Blade of Thorns. Okay.
So we have our own YouTube channel and Instagram. We've got all the socials. There's how many now? We have 3 videos on YouTube. We've got another one which is like a sort of animation video, and we're doing our 5th video in the next couple of weeks. So you can see our work if you want to have a look at.
I'll go and have a look. And
Again,
but you're a man of many talents.
Well, I always say, how's it go? A man of many talents, but master of none.
Oh, okay.
I'm always very conscious that I'm spreading myself thin. I'm not really focusing on something and doing it to the best of my ability. So yeah, there's a lot of other things I'm also interested in, which I've sort of jettisoned, because also being a family man, that's my priority. Not just to put food on the table, but I'm a father and a husband, so that's also my main priority in life. So there we go.
Do you with the music, and it's another art form, so do you then also produce your own music videos, or how does it work for your band? So
one of the 4 videos we made was what we call a narrative music video. So the song is in there, but it had to start with a bit of narrative, it's like a film, and then end with a film part as well, and then the music video was sort of in the middle. So that one I produced and directed, but most of them we have a fantastic music videographer who's been with us for the remaining those other videos we made. He's going to be with us for our next one. So I'm happy to leave it all to him. He films, he edits, he does the whole shebang. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, I have done music videos and produced and directed for other people, other bands, and specifically when there's children's music videos where they mime to a soundtrack. That I've done quite a few of those as well, so that's also quite fulfilling. You know?
And do you write your own music?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, it's all original. We have one cover which is a live piece, but they're all originals. I mean, the style. It's not to everyone's taste, but the style is sort of somewhere between Red Hot Chili Peppers, Queens of the Stone Age, Filter, which is a 90s band who were still around. That type of sort of rock with a little bit of funk dance type of feel to it. So it's a little bit of crossover, and the singer has a unique voice it's very, again, I mean, you'd have to hear him to know what I'm talking about. So, and he's very
I'm
much
going to listen, yeah.
Yeah.
And what instrument do you play?
So I'm the bass player.
Yeah.
So it's basically a 4-piece: guitar, bass, drums, vocals, and our drummer is also a piano player. So we're sort of working on different things to incorporate like a different style. At the moment, it's just guitar, bass, but we're looking at different things for the next album, which we've started working on already, having not finished the first one. So.
Okay.
Find everlasting liberty, can lead to your resurrection. Turn up poison veins, grant us our salvation. You're the judgment day, feed us in your affection.
I spoke recently to a young singer-songwriter, and she said that I asked her, when she writes the music, she says she sees pictures, she sees it visually. And you're a man in the visual arts, really. So do you also see your music visually?
Absolutely.
Really?
I mean, there's a song that we're working on now, which is going to be one of the 2 tracks that's going to finish the album. That I can see the video every time I play that song within the band. I can see the type of feel that I'd want. I mean, there's a lot of things that I want to do which I don't have the license to do, because you're in a band with 4 people and you can't do everything your own way. But yeah, I definitely see things visually. As do the other members of the band. They all have their own visual take, and we're all very expressive. We like to share ideas and pool ideas, because we're coming from very different backgrounds. I mean, the age range in the band is the youngest is 22, the oldest is 58. So
really? Oh wow!
Yeah, there's we cover years cumulatively. So yeah, but we're definitely coming from different perspectives. But the main thing is we share and we pool our ideas, and something unique comes from that.
But so tell me, where are you based actually? In London.
So all of us in Blade of Thorns are based in London. Myself, the guitarist, who's a songwriter, based in Northwest London, and the other 2 in Southwest London. So we meet at a rehearsal studio on a weekly basis. We also record in Northwest London. So yeah, we're just a London-based rock band.
And did you grow up in London?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I was always Northwest London based. So that's my bubble. That's all I know, really. Not very adventurous. Right.
Well, I'll disagree with that, because you do so many things, and yeah, it's wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And but tell me, Adrian, what are the wishes for you for the future?
Okay, well, in terms of films, I want to get to a stage where I'm going to make a feature-length film, because short films are very good. They're stocking fillers, for want of a better expression. They're great. They stand by themselves, but they're never going to get you on the ladder. So I need to do 1 or 2 more short films before I want to invest my time and energy into a feature-length film. So that's definitely got to be the goal, because that's the only way, by having a theatrical release, that's the only way you're going to make your imprint in the industry and start to make money from this, which is what I want to do. And in terms of music, I want to get that album finished, get out there on the road. I think I've got a couple of years left in me to be able to perform live. I've done. This is not the first band I've been in. I've been in bands since I was 17, so
Really?
decades.
Mm.
But I want to experience the feeling of playing live again, and I'd like to. Yeah, in terms of teaching, I'm already seeing this, but I'd like to see more the effect of being a teacher is. So when you invest in your students, because I never charge for teaching for what I do. That's one thing I do off the back of my own paid work is I'm able to teach for free. So my goal is to see the effect what I'm giving over will have on the student. So I'm already seeing that because I tutor a young boy from a single parent family, and I've been doing that for almost 2 years now, and I've seen him grow exponentially.
Wonderful.
He's very, very astute. I mean, it's a blessing to have something like that to teach because, and aside from the responsibility, to be a teacher is a huge responsibility. So I try not to take that for granted. But yeah, so I want to just become a better, more influential teacher.
What a wonderful wish, and how great, because you're changing then the lives of people.
I hope so, for the better. I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say that there are two types of people who you are never jealous of. One is your children, and one is your student. So, like, if your student does well, you don't feel jealous because you know that you had something to do with it. And with a child, you only get you get the satisfaction knowing that you were the parent of this child. That child was brought into the world for you to nurture them. So you will never be jealous of those two. And the best is when your child is also your student. That's the best.
Yeah.
That's the win-win, the real win-win.
Yeah. I homeschooled my children, so I can definitely say I agree with that. It was, for me, one of them, if I think of everything I've done, the most wonderful thing, and I was so happy that I did it. And it was really getting to know my children on a totally different level when you start teaching them, and when you see how they work. And what was for me so amazing is even now the way they approach work and their academics and how they learn is exactly how they are now as adults. I can see so the characteristics, and I'm so glad that I could experience that, and I could observe it also, because that's something that that I appreciate very much.
It's incredible because you can never underestimate that time where you're connecting with your child on a different level. They'll never lose that connection. It's an incredible bond when you learn with your child. So, I mean, yeah, if you can manage it, if you managed it, wonderful, wonderful.
But they say you learn more about yourself by teaching, and that's really true.
100%. I mean, in my world, they say that your biggest teachers are your students.
Yeah, exactly.
For many reasons. One reason is that they force you to learn because you can't teach without the knowledge base. And so because they will ask the questions, they'll challenge you. You are put in a position where you have, obviously, as a responsible teacher, you have to have the knowledge base to be able to pass it on. So they are, in effect, your biggest teachers. So I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, and you hear that many times from musicians as well, or artists that say that they teach, then they say the same thing, and that is what they enjoy so much about the teaching, is also the learning from the students.
Absolutely. I'll just mention that there is a Grammy-winning bass player. His name's got my head now. It'll come to me in a minute. Who I met. I had the because he played in London, and he does these workshops, like almost like summer camps, where he takes groups of students and he teaches them about playing the bass. But not just that, he'll teach them how to approach life through music. And I recently found out I saw an interview with him that he doesn't charge a penny for that.
Really?
He makes no money. Obviously, he covers his costs, but he does it as because he just believes this is the way to learn. You have to approach learning from the point of view that it's got number one, it's got to be fun. It's got to be appealing. It can't be a chore. So he will, apart from literally teaching the music, will also teach life lessons. It's still driving me mad now what his name is. It will. I bet you as soon as we finish, it'll come to me, and I'll just. But okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Distract myself.
Email me the name.
Yes. I'm having another senior moment.
I have many of those.
Yeah.
But Adrian, this was so lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Really, you're doing so much great work. I saw some of the trailers on your website as well. I'm going to add the website in the description of the video as well. So great work you're doing. I love your passion for what you're doing. I can really see it comes from the heart, and you really dedicate yourself to the cause. And I think that's beautiful.
Thank you so much, Petra. Thank you for taking the time.
It's a great pleasure.
My name is Moritz Schreiber.
My dad had a watch just like yours.
Hi, Sassy.
What would you have done?
You can't force the issue.
Nobody should go through what I went through. Nobody.
Well, I've just come from the synagogue.
And what's your name?